Hi, I'm Julie Duffy from Story a Day, and Debbie asked me to tell you a little bit about Story a Day, so I'm going to tell you what it is, how it works, and how you can get involved. Back in 2010, I was a frustrated writer who hadn't figured out how to incorporate writing into the adulting, which was unfortunate because I was an adult. And I was a friend and follower of Debbie's, and I know she's always up for a challenge. She introduced me to things like NaNoWriMo and Illustration Friday, and I noticed that whenever she does something new, she tends to do it kind of in public. So the fact that I couldn't get through a single short story and get to the end of it, I thought the logical solution clearly was to commit publicly to writing a story every day in May, and people jumped on board. So ever since then, I've been doing this challenge. Now, when I say every day in May, you get to set your own rules. And when I say stories, for me, it's short stories. But if you're a comic strip artist or a songwriter or a picture book artist or writer, if you are a joke teller, you can use this month to do whatever lights you up creatively. If you're a novelist, you can do it too. I focus on the whole finishing a piece every day because it's so helpful to get from idea to end. You know, when you get to the middle of a thing and it gets kind of complicated because you've introduced all this interesting stuff into your story and characters and complications and adventure, and then you don't know how to get to the end. Well, it's very useful exercise to actually spend some time getting to the end of things. Even if you have to write placeholders like interesting stuff happens here and get to the end, you can do that. Another thing about Story a Day May is that you do not have to write every day. You can make your own rules, and I encourage you to do that at the beginning of the month. Say, I'm going to write on weekends, or I'm going to write 4 days out of the week. But whatever you do, try and build a routine for yourself, because that's kind of the point of Story a Day. It's to help you build creativity into your life. That's one of the reasons that I see people every year come back to me and say, oh, I got a story that I wrote 2 years ago at Story a Day. It's out, it's in a magazine now. Because people enter into this thing maybe not being as creative or as committed to their creativity as they want, and then at the end of it they've taught themselves how to incorporate their creative work into their life. So that's really fun to see people come back and say that, and people come back year after year and join in and cheerlead. So set your own rules, come and hang out in the community, because surrounding yourself with people who are actively pursuing the same goal as you in a positive way is incredibly powerful. It's why people go to diet clubs. They don't need to be told not to eat chocolate and chips. They know that, but being around people at least once a week who are actively pursuing that goal is incredibly powerful. Being around writers who are actively pursuing the act of writing, or creative people who are pursuing their creativity every day, is so powerful, and it's so much better than hanging around in writers' forums where people are complaining about how hard writing is and how publishing industry stinks. And you know, you're allowed to do some of that stuff at Story a Day, but most people are just there to get a quick hit of I wrote today, how are you getting on, and then they skedaddle and do their work. So I think that's part of why it works. It's peer pressure, it's accountability, it is just surrounding yourself with that mindset that you want to be in. It's the same thing as going to a writer's conference and hanging out with published authors. It's why I like to keep books by friends of mine hanging around here, because knowing that other people can do it is very inspiring. People, you know, this is something that is absolutely doable. If you want to write, if you want to create, you should be doing that, because it's going to make you a better person. It's going to make you more fully yourself. So how do you get involved? If you want to be involved in this thing, just come over to storyaday.org. You can sign up for the mailing list. I will send you information towards the end of April, beginning of May, about how to get involved more deeply with the community stuff. But you can just check in. You can do this by yourself if you want, and you can just check in at the blog and see my optional writing prompts. So I hope that this has been helpful. I want to thank Debbie here, because without her example, Story a Day wouldn't exist. So she's definitely one of my fairy godmothers. And thanks for having me. I wish you all a wonderful creative week, and keep writing.